The kingdom of God is like a man who casts seed upon the soil. And he goes to bed at night and he gets up by day. And the seed sprouts and grows. He himself does not know. He himself does not know. The soil produces crops by itself, first the blade, then the head, then the mature grain in the head. But when the crop permits, he immediately puts in the sickle because the harvest has come. Okay, really compact parable here. We're 4 verses and he's loading in a lot. And he's using a simile here. He says the kingdom of God is like. In fact, we're going to see that again tomorrow. It's like this. Now, when he does this, when you get a parable and you get a kind of a simile this way, you got to understand that there are details that are important. We don't want to make a one-to-one correspondence with everything, but we got to understand he's compacting this to tell us some pretty important truths, and there's a simple singular truth we need to get to. So what we want to do is kind of find out where is this all going. So let's start through it. All right, so the kingdom of God is like a man who casts seed on the soil. So this kingdom of God here is the one that being thrown out on the soil. Remember, this is similar to what we saw when he talked about the types of soil. The sower sows the seed of the word. All right, but look what happens. This man who sows the seed in the kingdom, he goes to bed, he gets up, and the seed does its work. Okay, that's important. That's important. Okay, the farmer really isn't in charge of growing the crop. The farmer can make all the situation and the atmosphere good for the crop to grow, but the farmer can't make the seed grow. And so that's one of those things. If you've ever talked to a farmer, there's a big feeling of we do everything we can, but then it's completely out of our hands after that. And that's what he's saying. Look, the farmer does his job right here. The kingdom of God, it's sown, but then there's something else behind the scenes that's working. And so look what he says: the soil produces the crop by itself. That's what he's getting at. Hey, look, guys, you got to understand, you can't make this happen. This happens in a way that's beyond your ability, your ability to see and to comprehend. And so he says, and look what he says. He says, first it's the blade, then the head, and the mature grain in the head. Now, be careful. Don't try to read in certain stages and make like one-to-one correspondences here. He's just making the point here. Hey, look, this thing grows. First, it's just a blade. Then you get the head. Then you get the fruit in there, the mature grain in there. So don't read too much into that. He's just making the point that this thing grows on its own. But look what happens when the crop permits. He puts in the sickle, and the harvest has come. So, all right. So as we're thinking about this small, compact parable, and we're trying to understand what Jesus is getting at, here's where we need to understand just how clear we don't want to make this harder than it is, right? The point that he's making is right here in verse 27. He goes to bed at night, and he gets up by day. The seed sprouts and grows, and he himself doesn't know how. We don't know. We are incapable of making the seed grow. That's God's work, okay? And we have to understand that the kingdom of God and God's moving in hearts and bringing that to fruition, bringing that harvest, is ultimately God's work, not ours, right? We want to be the people who follow God. We want to do this, but ultimately, somebody believing the gospel, somebody coming to faith, that's a work of God in their lives. You can have the best, most polished gospel presentation in the world, and it will not profit a thing if God is not first moving. So that's where we have to be those people who understand what Jesus is getting at here. And so let's real quick, what does this tell us about God? It tells us that God is ultimately the one who's in charge. God is the one who's drawing people to faith. God is the one who's causing this thing to grow. What is it telling us about ourselves? It tells us that we're really helpless in this thing. We are completely dependent upon God. And that's a little unsettling for us to say at times, but that's where we need to be. We need to be those who are absolutely dependent upon God. And so what does this call us to do? Let me tell you, one of the things I think it should call us to is it should call us to prayer to God. God, do this work. Do what I can't do. Do what you never intended me to do so your name and your renown would be made known. All right, well, Dave, my time is up. Thank you guys so much. Just pray, keep working through this, and we'll be back tomorrow as we look at the parable, this time of the mustard seed. I will see you back tomorrow at noon. All right, have a great day.